business taxes, with stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Finally back in studio with all three of us. It's been feels like months.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
Definitely hasn't been this year.
Yes.
No, yeah. I haven't seen Justin since last year.
Yeah. I hugged both of them when I walked in.
I think the last time we were in studio, you said you made your see you guys next year joke.
Yeah. And I just didn't know it was going to be almost a month in.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back. All of us here in studio for at least a week or two until Josh runs off on paternity leave. I almost said maternity leave, but I don't think he's the one giving birth.
I'm not. Nope.
So
You look good, bro, for 9 months pregnant.
I've been working out the whole time, you know.
Oh, damn.
we got a fun episode lined up for you guys here today. We're going to talk, Dallas and Browns trade rumors for the draft. Is Deion going to Dallas? Does that open the door for the Browns to swindle a trade out of them? We're going to talk, obviously, the Deshaun article, which came out a few days ago. I know Josh already talked about it a little bit by himself. We're going to hear from myself and Justin. Going to talk a little bit of draft. Obviously, the Tommy Rees hire, offensive coordinator. So despite the Brown season being done, they've given us plenty to talk about here in the early part of the offseason. We're excited to get into all of it. Remember, if you want to get thoughts and interests on the show, head to thedogspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail on the drop-down menu. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we're putting out. If you are subscribed on YouTube or if you have a YouTube account, you can also become a YouTube member for 99 cents a month. I always forget to mention that, but that is also fun.
And new thing, just kind of this week, the other day, you can now 99 cent your way into the Dog Pack community on Facebook.
Oh,
so if you guys are watching live on Facebook right now, please subscribe to the page. It's just 99 cents a month. If you got an extra buck, and honestly, it's probably a little better than the YouTube one just because you can actually get in there and chat with each other and us all day long, just like we do in the Discord.
So, it's a cool thing. I see God the Highest 216 already has a comment in here, and I met him once. I think it was at camp. So what's up?
Cool.
I remember meeting. Lost my train of thought. Yeah, YouTube member or Facebook member. It's only 99 cents a month. It helps out the show a lot, especially as potentially about to lose TikTok. I hate our government. Yeah. So luckily we're diversified. We're on all the socials.
That's right.
If you want to find us on any of the socials, including TikTok for at least a couple more days, just search at the Dogs Podcast and you'll find us. If you prefer to just listen to the show, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. And lastly, if you're looking for more dogs content, just head to jointhedogs.com, become an official Dog Pack member on the Patreon page, get access to the private Discord, play fantasy football with us. Speaking of fantasy football, I'm a champion.
Looks good.
In our redraft league.
Looks good.
Josh was a 2-time champion, won 2 redraft leagues this year. This is the first year Justin didn't win it, but
whatever, bros.
The dogs have done a very good job in these fantasy leagues since we started doing this a few years ago. We've won multiple leagues. So you guys are going to have to step up your game if you guys want to come at the champs. Make sure you guys jump in the Dog Pack.
That's what I'm talking about.
Maybe you get in now, get to know us over the course of the next 8 months, find out our weaknesses, and then you can properly attack us in fantasy football next year.
It's kind of cool because then you can kind of pick what league you want to be into, not just with us, but with the other members in the Dog Pack. Like we've got rivalries in there between other people and everything. They're like, no, we're going back at it next year. Like this guy took me down and I'm coming back for revenge and all this stuff. It's fun. I love it in there. Yeah, so it's a good time. You get to meet Browns fans from all over the world. Obviously, Kenny Mack's in there. He's on the show a lot. It's just a good time for everybody involved. So if you want to get to know us, you want extra content throughout the offseason, part of that private Discord, talk Browns football with other people from all over the world, it's jointhedogs.com to become an official Dog Pack member. So I think to kick off the episode, we got one comment. Let's just answer the question real quick, and then we'll kind of dive in. Do we really want Kirk? What's with so many people wanting to get Browns to get these pass around QBs? I would take Kirk Cousins. I'm not saying I
I think Kirk Cousins is the future, but I take Kirk Cousins as a bridge. I know he didn't play well like his last so many games. It was 1 touchdown, 8 picks or something like that. But I think he was playing in an offense that wasn't necessarily suited to his strengths. I know he had weapons, but it wasn't suited to his strengths, I don't think. Sure. It's not like Penix went in there and just lit it up either, you know. I also think he was getting over the Achilles injury early. And then just as he started to kind of find a groove, because he had a couple game stretch there where I was like, okay, Kirk Cousins is back. And then I think he got a busted up shoulder or elbow or something like that, and he was injured again. He couldn't move, couldn't take hits. I think if you get Kirk in here, you get him in what we believe to be is going back to a more Kevin Stefanski-centric offense, a guy who he's already played for, so he's going to be familiar with the verbiage and all that good stuff. I think he could be a good bridge quarterback for a season or two, and you could play high-level football, which we're going to talk draft. I think if you get a guy like Kirk and all of a sudden you're competitive, you win a lot of games, you're not going to be picking high, which is why I think while you have the number 2 pick, like I said, we'll get to the draft. I think you should be focusing on quarterback. But I would take Kirk Cousins. I would take Derek Carr. I just think the Browns need a grown-up at the position this year.
Oh, boy.
No matter who.
I'm so tired of hearing that. Don't do that.
No matter who we draft or what, I think we need a bridge guy to let our young guy learn for a season or two and not just shove them into the fire. And also to get back kind of the trust of the vets like Bitonio, Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett. Like, these guys don't want to go through a rebuild. They want to play meaningful football next year. So I think bringing in a vet could do that.
Absolutely. I think that I know we all want the quarterback of the future. We want the position answered and all that kind of stuff. And trust me, I'm sure every NFL team would love to have Jaden Daniels or a Bo Nix come in as a rookie year one and show that, hey, I am that guy. And guess what? I can get you to the playoffs already. That's fantastic, and it's not realistic for all 32 teams. You got to have a bridge quarterback in some situations, and I think we're in that situation. I don't think there is a rookie quarterback in this class coming in who's going to be Bo Nix or Jane Daniels, take you to the playoffs in year one. I think you need a good bridge quarterback like Kirk Cousins, and I mean, it does do a lot to earn the trust, like you were talking about, of the other players in the locker room, because what quarterback had the most success in Cleveland this year? It was Jameis Winston. I mean, and it wasn't like fantastic, but it was enough to get the team. We were hyped. The team felt more hyped. There was actually a chance of winning games. Last year was Joe Flacco. Now, these aren't long-term answers at the quarterback position, but they're bridging just enough to give you that spark that you need.
Ding, 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 guys. I think you got both great answers. I'm with you. I don't know if there's a guy in this class that's going to come in immediately and be ready day one, right? And from what we've seen, guys that get to sit a little bit, it's positive for them. It's worked out for Jordan Love for the most part. Guys that have sat for a little bit, Rodgers, another one, just sat and got to, get some experience. And then when they were ready to go in, nothing, we're good to go. I'm with you guys though. I think they do need to bring in somebody, at least to make, the vets, like you said, feel like we're not completely mailing it in. And another guy would throw in I like Carr. I like Kirk Cousins. Are we completely against bringing Flacco back for 1 year? I know he's a year older, but I'm saying if we're going to bring somebody in, are we completely against that?
I'll never say I'm completely against it, because that was fun football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's a good dude. He was good in the locker room and all that. But man, he did not play very well in Indy with a guy who we think is a good offensive coach, good running back, good wide receivers. And even when he was here, he turned the ball over a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it was like high risk, high reward. If we wanted that, we just would have rolled with Jameis all year. Yep. I think there's better bridge guys out there. I think Kirk Cousins is a guy who can give you the touchdowns without all the picks. And again, if you look at the last few games before he got benched, obviously you're going to say he's terrible. But if you look at his body of work, Kirk Cousins has been very, very high level quarterback in this league for a long time.
Yeah, he definitely has been.
He was Kirk Cochain's this year. They were doing the chain thing again with him. I mean, he had a huge Monday night game where he had almost 500 yards, 5 tutties or something like that.
He was healthy for like a month.
Yeah.
And in that month, he played pretty well. He was really starting to get, and then I think he got banged up again.
I think too many people are looking at Cousins and using or overlooking the impact of the Achilles injury and recovery and using that to say washed up because he's a little older. I don't think he's washed up. I just think that he's recovering, and I think
there's something
a year removed from that.
Another thing with Kirk too is I trust Kirk to put in the work.
Yes, yeah.
Like especially if you watch that the quarterback
on Netflix.
On Netflix,
yeah.
Like Kirk Cousins does a lot to like make sure he's mentally ready, physically ready, emotionally ready. I mean, the guy is like what you want in the quarterback position in terms of preparation outside of what's mandated by the team. Like I trust Kirk Cousins to come in, put in the work, be healthy, know the offense, all the things that we want out of the quarterback position that quite honestly we haven't had in a very long time. So we had a voicemail. We're going to use this at the end, but this is from Michael and actually ties into what we're talking about now. So I'm just going to play it now if that's cool. Okay. Yep.
Hi guys, thanks for this opportunity. I have been a Browns fan since 1960, so I'm an old guy, and I watched with great disappointment in 2018 when the Browns passed up Josh Allen. But now there's a second coming, and his name is Joe Milton, 6'5", 250, sits on the bench in New England. I pray that the Browns trade for him and give him the opportunity to be the Browns franchise quarterback. I'm not sure why no one else in any of the social media platforms I've seen hasn't raised an eyebrow and given this a thought. But I'd appreciate your input. I just found you on YouTube and look forward to hearing more about the Browns and your insight. Have a great weekend. Go Browns.
So he's talking about Joe Milton, rookie quarterback from Tennessee. I think, what was he, 4th or 5th round pick last year for the Patriots, something like that.
So what I want to, first of all,
good for you.
Guy sounds great for probably
bro.
like, what, 70?
Good Lord.
He said he's been a fan since
a fan since 60. So and you have to live that, deal with all that.
Bro, I hope I sound that good when I'm, up in the year. So
I don't sound like that now.
Hopefully I still.
Good for you, brother.
So appreciate you calling in, being a fan of the show, and finding us. That's awesome. I don't know enough about Joe Milton to be like, oh, he gives you great this and this. I just don't know. I obviously know in the little bit that he did get to play, he showed some things. Yeah. I'm not trading for Joe Milton and saying, hey, you're our day one starter. I would trade for Joe Milton and put him behind a guy like Kirk Cousins or in competition with a guy like Kirk Cousins. And I would put him on the team, but I'm not handing him the keys to the car because he was a 4th or 5th round draft pick. He's still considered a project guy. Yep. You know what I mean? Could you bring him here and say you don't want to draft a rookie this year and you trade for him, you put him at 2, then you still have a bridge quarterback for a year or 2, and then he already sat 1 year, so maybe he only sits another year, learns behind a guy, learns the offense, and then you could but I'm not just trading for Joe Milton saying, here's our franchise guy and handing him the keys to a 5th round pick without making him earn it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. From what I've seen, and I've seen him only in, like you said, little flashes, a game here, a little bit here, a quarter here, kind of lit it up. I mean, it's nice, but you have to also keep him, with the context. We're talking week 18.
We're talking preseason.
Yeah.
Preseason. We're talking
everybody looks good.
And we're talking not just going against second string, but 3rd string, 4th string.
Car vanilla defenses.
Because he wasn't even like the starter for some of those preseason. It was Drake May. So I feel I got like DTR worries about that. Like, yeah, he looked really good in a couple preseason games. He'd probably look good against a 3rd string defense too, or a team that's resting for the playoffs. But I mean, Joe Milton does intrigue me. He's got a cannon of an arm. The dude can throw the ball like the length of the field. Oh my gosh, yeah. So I mean, for the right draft capital, I mean, it's not a bad swing to take, but I wouldn't give up a ton.
No, I agree.
I don't think you really would have to, would you?
I think it probably depends on what they think of Drake May and who else is on their team at the backup position, how they feel. You know what I mean? Because we've seen it pays to have a serviceable backup. Yeah. I'm not saying you got to keep an all-pro on your bench, but you don't want to have DTR on your bench as your second string quarterback. You know what I mean?
Fair.
I see a comment down here about Jalen Milroe. That is definitely on the agenda to talk about. So make sure you stick around. We're definitely going to get to that.
Yep.
I think we were going to kick off with.
Oh, voicemail from Jacob here.
Yep.
What's up, my fellow Brown fans? This is Jacob from the Northeast Ohio. And I picked one heck of a season to start watching Browns football, didn't I? Well, anyways, I'm sure you guys have heard about Deion Sanders talking about the Dallas Cowboys head coach, if I'm remembering correctly. So if that's the case, what would you guys think of Deion Sanders trading away Dak Prescott to the Browns? We giving them our first round pick so they can pick his son, and then we have Dak Prescott. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know. I just want to see what your guys' thoughts on it and maybe what we could get in return other than their first round pick and Dak. Thank you.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the biggest thing that I have for this is, and it all comes down to like salary cap. I'm not a money guy, but I just don't know how we're going to, he just signed that contract. You know what I mean?
I got a little bit of notes from Jack Duffin did an article on this.
Yeah.
Cool,
of course,
bro.
Jack Duffin did, right?
Let me hear this real quick.
He's got all the financial stuff.
Okay, cool.
So,
let me hear this real quick.
First of all, he noted Dak Prescott does have a no trade clause.
Interesting.
So is he coming to Cleveland? Probably not. Jack Duffin says financially, the Cleveland Browns can make this work because they will turn each contract year into an option bonus and push the salary cap hits far out into the future. Dak will likely need to agree to this change because it's not likely the Cowboys have the contract language that the Browns use as their standard. The dead cap for the Cowboys would be $103 million in 2025, which is only slightly higher than his current cap hit for 2025, which is almost $90 million. So not a huge offset there, I guess. Personally, Jack says, I think this is highly unlikely. The aim is probably to get Travis Hunter if Deion goes to Dallas, but you can never rule things like this out. It would potentially be one where you aren't getting a crazy return on the picks to move up from 2nd to 12th in the draft, as the Cowboys are taking on so much dead cap having front-loaded Dak's extension.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
So whenever I first heard Deion potentially going to the Cowboys, which some people are saying he's not going, and I'm hearing a lot of people saying like it would be hard for him to turn down if they offer it to him. So who knows what's going to happen there. My immediate thought was, we trade grape them. I think that's what they have to say on the social media. Yeah. You know, for all you fantasy football people, we all know this term, or fans of the league.
Fleece.
Fleecing. I think we could fleece them.
Correct.
Because if that would be to get Shedeur. If Deion's going to Dallas, he wants Shedeur. And I thought, okay, we get Dak. Then I remembered I've pretty much shit on Dak my entire life on this podcast. Yeah. I think Kirk Cousins is better than Dak Prescott, at least when they're both healthy. And then the money, obviously, and then Dak Prescott he keeps getting severely injured and missing lots of games
and not looking good.
Yes, and not looking good,
coming off a bad season.
So I moved off the Dak Prescott idea pretty much almost as soon as I was on it. What about Michael Parsons?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, have they paid him yet?
No, he's getting ready. He's pretty much, they're talking about it.
So, we saw how they handled their other star, CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
So,
or in CD is another person. Right. Like, hey, okay, you want Shedeur? Then you give us 12. You give us your first rounder next year, and then you give us CD or you give us Micah. And we can name our price. Jerry Jones is going to have eyes this big thinking about Deion and Shedeur and all those tickets they're going to sell and how big of a draw it'll be in Jerry World. You're going to be able to get whatever you want.
We got Amari Cooper for a 5th.
Yes. And I've said that I didn't want to trade out of the top 10 if we moved back, but if we can trade out of the top 10 and get a Micah Parsons or a CeeDee Lamb, then yes, you still do it.
Picks.
And then maybe imagine if you get Parsons or CeeDee Lamb, and then if you're at 12, you snag a Genty. You know, I've kind of moved off the Genty thing because I've fallen in love with Travion Henderson. But you'd still have plenty of options, and you'd be addressing a huge need by getting one of those two players. Will Dallas trade one of them? I don't know, but they've showed a very big unwillingness to negotiate very much with them, and they just let a coach walk off of I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know.
I've never seen it before. I've never seen a coach out his contract, and then they just couldn't
figure it out.
Thanks for your time here, but we're not going to bring you back, but you're not fired. It's just kind of like
free agent.
Yep. Free agent coach. I've never seen that before in the 35, almost 36 years I've been watching football now.
Yeah. And I heard a quote, I think it was from Jerry, maybe not, but either way, the quote was something about, it wasn't money. Money wasn't the issue. So this episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter. And most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients. Plus, it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. Dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
Now Taxes is 100% free when you file in the TurboTax app if you didn't file with us last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just do your own taxes in the app by 2/18.
What if I have lots of forms?
All good, all 100% free.
What if I had 3 jobs?
Still 100% free.
What if I once saw Bigfoot?
That has nothing to do with taxes, so still 100% free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Now this is Taxes. See if you qualify in the TurboTax app. Excludes TurboTax Live, must start and file in app by 2/18.
I heard a rumor that Jerry wants Jason Witten to be the heir apparent to Mike McCarthy, and Mike McCarthy was like, no. I wouldn't put it past Jerry.
I wouldn't either.
You know what I mean? And that was just a rumor I saw floating around on the interwebs somewhere. I don't know if there's any truth to that.
People crap on Jimmy Haslam like crazy, and rightfully so for some things.
Yeah.
You imagine being a Cowboys fan, Jerry Jones. Like, the dude thinks he's the GM. He really, I mean,
he is the GM.
No, yeah. I know he's the GM, but he actually thinks he's a GM. Like, he thinks he's good at it.
Yeah. And they haven't won anything since the 90s.
No.
Fair. Would you trade 12 wins? Would you trade 12 wins and a little bit of Jerry for, what we're dealing with? I mean, if you know the context that you're not ever going to make it out of the first round of the playoffs, then, probably not. But,
But no, I think I would not touch Dak in that trade, but I would make them pay a king's ransom. And part of that king's ransom would be one of those two guys.
Sure.
I would be getting. Could you imagine? I know a lot of people have been high. I've been kind of like that. I don't want to draft Abdul Carter at 2. But could you imagine Micah Parsons and Myles Garrett together?
What do you do? Have fun.
There'd be 87 no holding calls.
Yeah.
Because if Micah Parsons is up there with Myles in terms of just gets tackled every game and never gets a holding call.
Yeah. And Mike would be similar to what I like about. And I'm not saying I want Abdul Carter at 2, but what I like about him is he provides a very complementary offsetting skill set to Myles. Like, he can do some of the things in coverage, and, he can rotate at the linebacker spot, inside, outside a little bit more. And Myles is strictly an edge rusher. So I kind of like, and the same thing with Micah, having you don't really know what you're going to get from either side.
Where are they coming from? Yeah. Where are they lining up?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So do you guys think Deion's going to go there?
The fact that they talked, I don't know who reached out to who. I got to think that Jerry reached out to him and said, hey,
So as far as I've seen, it's been Deion in talks, and they've interviewed like Kellen Moore, who used to be their OC. So maybe he comes back to be the head coach. But you're right. I do think that Jerry's probably just salivating at that idea.
Can we pump the brakes too, though, on Kellen? What is Kellen Moore doing that he just keeps getting looked at as like this incredible offensive whiz?
Statue of Liberty, man. No, that was
I'm not saying he's a bum, but didn't the Cowboys offense was better when he left. What am I crazy to think that? Maybe not this year when Dak was out, but the first year McCarthy took play calling back and Dak was healthy. He had a ton of yards, scored a ton of points.
And there's issues in Philly this year, I don't know whether that was head coaching and quarterback stuff or what exactly was going on there, but if you're Jerry Jones and you have those two and you're looking at it,
I guess here's another thing is I'm not one of these people who craps on Deion at Colorado, but do you think he'd translate to an NFL coach?
We haven't seen a ton of college coaches translate and have a lot of success.
Even the best.
Yeah, even the best.
Nick
right.
Saban went to Miami and
Urban Meyer was a
in
joke.
my head, like Pete Carroll's the best one by far.
sure, that's fair.
And it took him 2 tries.
Yeah.
If I'm not, he was in, I think, New England the first time.
Jim Harbaugh's kind of bounced back and forth. So
I think he is a second success. He's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just don't, I think a big part of like Deion's thing in college is like motivating. He knows how to like motivate kids, especially like today's youth, and they're enamored by the fact that it's prime, and maybe adults would be too, because I mean it's prime. But I just feel like a big part of that is like, it's all about coaching your life too and turning you into young men. And I just don't know how that translates to a professional NFL locker room when they already are grown men, right, and have families and that kind of
and achieved the success of being in the NFL.
So I just don't know, but I mean, I'm not going to underestimate him because he's been successful literally everything he's ever done, but I just don't know how it would work.
Ticket wise, money wise, like coming back into Dallas, it's prime. It's a home run. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But, and that's, Jerry's going to say, hey, it's about the team, but it's about the money.
For them, I think it's a smart thing to at least explore. Because like you said, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but either way, you're driving in some revenue. You're definitely increasing the excitability around the team.
Upticks.
At least in the beginning. Now they go out there and they start off 0-7 because the head coaching's a joke like Urban Meyer was and Jacksonville. Okay, now all that runs out.
Yeah.
But the hype going into the season would be pretty high.
Yep.
Another side note before we move on, there's so much good stuff to get to. It's things like this. I'm very happy the Browns did not fire Kevin Stefanski. There's Ben Johnson, and Vrabel was going to New England.
Yeah, that was set.
That was set. So you had no chance of getting Vrabel. He was not going to stay here over New England. Ben Johnson's not coming here.
No.
Okay. I hear he's going to Vegas, and maybe the Bears are still in play. Who are the other candidates out there? And now Mike McCarthy's gone from Dallas, and they have to go all in on either Deion, who's an unproven guy from the college ranks. He's only been in big-time college football for 2 years now, if you consider Colorado big-time college football, and Kellen Moore. You know what I mean? Like, the Browns would be scraping the bottom of the barrel for one of these candidates for a head coach.
I know people don't really like this name, but like if I'm Dallas, I'm like calling Robert Saleh. You know what I mean? Like, I know like he had moments where like people questioned like maturity and leadership. I thought he was a dog. Like
the Jets,
but it's a Jets organization thing.
I don't think he's a great. I don't know if he was a great head coach or not. I don't like how he handled like the Zach Wilson thing when Zach got hurt and he just pretty much checked out, like quit trying. We saw our coach lose the starter and go to the playoffs with 4 other starting quarterbacks. But the Jets got significantly worse, especially on the defensive side of the ball once they fired.
Yeah, for sure.
So
no, it would be unknown coordinator guy, because I'm seeing posts from other teams like the Jets, for instance. I mean, they're hey, we just concluded an interview with so and so for head coach. I'm like, who?
Yeah. Like the guys that I saw, like former head coaches, I saw Rex Ryan. I just laughed. I was
like, Rex Ryan was trying to.
You know, a name that I saw that I always like this guy, and I don't know. I think he's a good coach, but I saw Riverboat Ron, and I was like, oh man. But yikes, you know what I mean?
Pete Carroll's name's out there, I guess.
Pete Carroll. I mean,
and honestly, we're going to talk about him here in a little bit, but Tommy Rees's name has been floated around, I feel like, as an up and comer, a younger up and comer in the league, and we can talk about that here in a little bit, but I do think that's part of the reason why the Browns
he was going to be an OC.
We're going to promote him. That way we could keep him on the staff.
Yep.
So, yeah, I wanted to take that. Some people are like, oh, we should have fired Kevin. I'm like, for what?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
For the guy that you're bringing in is
you're going to
fire a lot more uncertainty.
Yes. Like, come on. You got to have somebody. If you're going to fire the guy, you better be pretty sure there's somebody better than him out there. And I'm seeing guys getting interviewed, and I don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
So we'll move on. Another voicemail. Other hot topic of the week.
Yeah, you want to talk about the article?
Yeah.
All right, Kenny Mack here to kick this one off.
He's making a list. He's checking it twice. Gonna find out who's quarterback, naughty or nice. Deion Claus ain't coming to town. Guys, I don't know what the big thing is with Shedeur Sanders, but man, he ain't coming. And I don't understand why Deshaun wouldn't want him here. I mean, take a look at that article from The Athletic. I mean, what don't you want? You can pretty much say or do whatever you want. The Browns will sign you for millions of dollars. 5 open receivers. in film session and you didn't see it, well, you know what? It was always a decoy. So there's no pressure on you. You don't have to play preseason. And you know what? Who cares what the offense has on it? You can have whatever offense you want and hell with the rest of the team. As far as DW is concerned, I'm not surprised about the article at all. I mean, guys, like really what you have to do. And the point of the article was that you need somebody similar to Flacco because that was the best success that we ever had. So if you're taking a look at all QB prospects, every single one from free agent to the draft, who's the best one that matches up? I mean, I gave you my thoughts last week on this show about Milroe. I think that was just a connections. By no means that I would want him on the team, but if you're going to draft Sanders, draft him too if he doesn't get any higher. Anyways, I'm out.
So obviously the big news was Jason Lloyd's article from The Athletic talking about the Browns and just kind of the behind the scenes thing with what the locker room felt of Deshaun and where it went wrong and all that stuff. And I guess the first thing I'll say is a lot of times I don't like to put a lot of stock in anonymously sourced things because you can just say whatever you want, say it was an anonymous source, and then you don't have to back it up with anything. But Jason Lloyd writes for The Athletic. It's a big national brand. You don't get that big by just putting out, like tabloid type stuff. And I think it's pretty like we watched the team.
Yeah. It makes sense. It tracks to me.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Things track.
It tracks.
It tracks, bro.
And then you have guys like Miles we're talking about that he wanted to see a plan. Denzel Ward got interviewed on the streets, I think, in New York this past week, and he talked about how they need to solidify the quarterback position because it's the NFL and everything's based off that. I think you're seeing like, one, if you had any doubts if Denzel is ever going to play again, or not Denzel, Deshaun, he'll never play again for the Browns.
No, that's done.
So that we can finally like move on. And I know we spent a lot of time defending it. We defended the move. I'll still defend the move. But then I feel like I was pretty early this year in terms of being out. And then I think we're all there now.
Oh yeah. It didn't, it was like a domino effect. Jack Conklin, another one I wanted to throw in there. He was interviewed right after that last game, I think it was, and he said this
kind of confused, we're not sure what we got.
Basically, this is what happens when you build the offense around one player instead of the team.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
quote?
he said we have no identity.
Yep.
Nothing that we can fall on. It's like some people are dogging on Stefanski for not going to Deshaun and film and stuff like that, and it's not a great look. It's kind of like when LeBron came back to Cleveland and David Blatt was there, and David Blatt couldn't hold LeBron accountable, and they had to get rid of him and bring Ty Lue in, who would tell him to sit down and shut the fuck up in meetings and stuff. But at the same time, I don't know the mindset, and I'm not in there, and it's almost like, is Kevin like, I've told this guy 50 times, and it doesn't matter if I tell him a 51st time, A, he's not going to get it, and B, there's nothing I can do about it anyways because I'm not allowed to bench him.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's just like, whatever. I also think a lot of times, unless it's like Bill Belichick, I don't think your starting quarterback, especially a guy who's supposed to be like your star starting quarterback, isn't getting shredded apart in film sessions very often. Like the big thing you always hear about why the Patriots were so successful is because Bill would coach Tom just like he coached the specials teamer, and everybody was shocked to see it. Like, I signed with New England, and my first meeting, Bill was ripping Tom Brady, and I'm like, this is Tom Brady. So I don't think every coach in the league is just ripping their star quarterback in front of the entire team on a regular film review basis. I don't think that's happening in the NFL. So I don't think it's completely out of the norm. Now, to just like completely let him off scot-free, again, I don't know his mindset. Is it like this season doesn't matter, this guy sucks, and it doesn't matter if I tell him he sucks or not, he's going to be starting next week because this is what we are. And this is what was decided before the year, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, and how do we know that he wasn't told by higher up, like, hey, just lay off him, you know, don't criticize him in front of the team, or who knows what the situation was that led to that being the case, but we've seen it before. I mean, nobody held Johnny Manziel accountable, and we found out years later that he wasn't even showing up to film sessions, or he was showing up coked out of his mind or whatever, and it's like...
Hey, I'm not going to have the Johnny slander here.
But you know what I'm saying. It's not like this is a one-off situation with a quarterback in Cleveland.
No, somebody said Sean Payton would tear Drew Brees up. Yeah, there's a couple guys, you know,
And you got to know your guy too.
Yes.
You know,
that's
his
another
psyche
thing
is-
here. I think we can all agree that a huge part of Deshaun's problem is mental.
Psyche. That psyche's.
So
yeah.
Like you got to also have to know, like, is it going to do this guy any good for me to belittle him and put him down in front of 53 other guys every single film session?
Right.
You know what I mean? We don't know if he doesn't go in behind closed doors and talk to him and talk, you know what I mean? Like you can't coach every single person the same way. Yes. Tom and Drew Brees, they could take that. Some people can't. You got to coach them differently. So I'm not saying it's a great look by Kevin, but I'm also saying we don't know everything there is to know about why and what happened behind closed doors between just the two of them. Does Kevin even have a reason to coach him? Because he's going to play no matter what, unless he's hurt. And then just the rest of the article is all things we knew. We knew they went.
right.
We knew they went and got Ted Dorsey to build the offense around Deshaun. Like, duh.
Yeah. Look who he coached up.
Yes.
It all made sense.
So there wasn't anything crazy, but it was just kind of like a big thing to see it in print finally.
Well, it was the in print for the entire story, but it was and like you said, I know it was anonymous sources, but still hearing what players allegedly had been quoted as saying was like, wow, talking about feeling like a weight had been lifted whenever he was no longer the quarterback and that kind of stuff. And, you know, I have seen all the people online saying, oh, well, like you said, they could just be making that up. But so many guys have already come out and said it to the media on camera in front of a microphone, not directed with Deshaun Watson's name in, you know, the subject, but pretty damn easy to figure out who they're talking about.
Yes. Thoughts on DeJuan Jones? Thank you, Soul Train, for the super chat at left tackle in the wide zone. So the only thing I'll say about him going to left tackle is, one, I'm not banking on it because he's finished 2 years in a row on injured reserve. And I think it was Jake Burns put it out on X a while back. Like, these people who just think that DeJuan Jones is going to be a godsend at left tackle, that's a lot of revisionist history based on his play. Like, even his rookie year, he was pretty solid in pass pro, but he was borderline awful in run blocking. Okay. And then he played poorly before the injury this year. He was out of shape. I'm not saying I wouldn't give him a shot at it, but just like I'm not bringing Joe Milton in and handing him the keys to the car, I'm not bringing DeJuan Jones back and saying this is my day one left tackle starter without giving him some high level competition to earn that spot.
Yeah. I'm addressing it also in free agency because we can't keep any tackles healthy. I mean, honestly, I feel like it's just a revolving door. We're always on our second, third. So I'm with you. I would definitely get some depth in free agency. I don't know if you can take a rookie that's just going to step in and we don't have to worry about this guy.
This episode is brought to you by Bodden Sports. Browns fans, Bodden Sports is your one-stop shop for all your athletic gear. Bodden started out perfecting and manufacturing the best balls in the business. Yeah, if that sounded dirty, that's more about your mind than my words. But hey, it's true. Baseballs, softballs, footballs, basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls, you name it, and Bodden has engineered the highest standard sports balls available. And now they offer more than just sports balls. If you got kids playing baseball or softball, Bodden has batting gloves and bats to go along with both game balls and training balls. If you're into basketball, Bodden makes basketball specifically for indoor or outdoor use. Heck, Bodden even has all the equipment you need for pickleball, which is one sport that I hear everyone is playing and yet I still never have. And I need to fix that soon. But don't miss the backyard games section of Bodden's website where you can order everything you need for this upcoming outdoor season. Pool balls, backyard volleyball nets, croquet, bocce, horseshoes, cornhole, and more. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order at Bodden Sports, BADEN sports.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use promo code DOGS when you check out. That's 10% off all the top quality sporting gear you need this season. BoddenSports.com/dogs. Yeah, I was just going to go back to Fatal Gnome. The chat said you don't have to rip them and belittle them, meaning Kevin in the film sessions and all that stuff. Constructive criticism is needed. And I think that's a big thing too. Like, people are instantly jumping to, well, he needs to be telling him he sucks and pointing it out and making sure he knows. And it goes back to what you said, Blake. It's perfect because Deshaun just seemed not interested in the offense because, I mean, based on the article here, it says when Kevin went to talk to Deshaun when they were meeting in March of 2022 before the trade. He showed him clips of his offense during that first meeting, demonstrated how Watson could thrive in the wide zone play action scheme. And then after Watson came to Cleveland, he never embraced the offense, which makes total sense. That's why we saw such a struggle on the field. Every time it was out there, it's like, why does it look so hard? It looks like he's fighting against it almost. And I guess that's why, because he was.
I think he said he didn't. There was talks like, I don't want to be under center.
Yeah, he wanted to be in shotgun.
He wanted to be in shotgun.
Which goes completely against Stefanski's
whole
setup.
The play action is not nearly as effective out of the shotgun, which is a huge staple of Kevin's passing game.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was a recipe for disaster. We said this all year. I said this offense was built on Deshaun, and everybody's gonna look worse if the foundation was bad. And the foundation was bad.
It was.
If we had 2018 Deshaun, the offense could have looked a lot better because he would have been athletic enough to escape the pressures. He would have been fast enough to get outside the pocket. He would have been able to stay healthy, and he would have made people. It would have looked okay. And it wouldn't have been because the offense was firing on all cylinders. It was just because he was very good at football. We built our entire offense on a cracked foundation, and it made it all crumble and everything else. We had $30,000 brand new windows, and then they shattered and looked, like junk windows because the foundation we built it on cracked and they all fell down. So that's like Josh Sewell says, I think Dorsey's scheme did more damage to the O-line than we realized. We said that. Yes. We're in shotgun. There's no freezing of anybody. We didn't make any defenses think. Everything with the runs were runs and passes were passes. What made Joe Flacco so successful in this offense is you didn't know every play looked the same. If you we'd run the ball, and then we'd run a play action, and all the linebackers thought it was still a run. Everything said run. It all looked the same, and Joe was so good at carrying out that fake. And then all of a sudden, and you only have to make a linebacker freeze for a blink of an eye, and you're 4-4 wide receivers past him. You know what I mean? So guys could just tee off. There was no guessing. It was just, you didn't make them think at all. We still didn't motion. So there's no pre-snap anything they had to worry about. Deshaun couldn't identify anything pre-snap. They just pinned their ears back and got to just play carefree, see ball, get ball football.
Yeah, they could rush 3 and get a sack because he would just run into it.
Yep. I don't know. I think that year and a half off that he took too, I don't know. I think that was a huge part of just what we saw that first year back. And we all were like, maybe it's rust, blah, blah, blah. The processing was bad. The vision was bad. And then on top of that, physically, he didn't look like the same guy.
Yeah. So that's over now.
Yes. we can close the chapter on that. It's just how we're going to officially get out of it. Maybe to revert back to a previous thing, if you are going to trade with Dallas, you say, okay, maybe we'll give you 2 and you guys give us 12 and, say Parsons because you haven't paid him yet. And you don't have to give us any more picks, but you got to take Deshaun in his contract.
I don't know if that works because they're eating so much of Dak's. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is not. They wouldn't be able to do it with Dak on the books too, would they?
They'd drill for some more oil and figure it out.
All right, so let's see. We want to talk Tommy Rees or draft in general.
Let's go Tommy Rees.
Okay. I don't have a voicemail. I just have the voicemail to kick off the draft. So if you're waiting on me.
Okay,
yeah, here we go.
So obviously, big news this week. The Browns promoted Tommy Rees to offensive coordinator. He was the tight ends coach and passing game coordinator or just tight ends for the Browns this past season after spending a season in Tuscaloosa as offensive coordinator. And then he was an offensive coordinator at Notre Dame before that, where he played quarterback back in the day. I'm pretty sure I actually remember when he played quarterback. Some people were dunking on the Browns. I think I said this in my episode with Kenny. The Browns are going to have to earn some goodwill back with people. Okay. And until they do, no matter what they do, they're going to get shit on. Mm-hmm. We could trade for Patrick Mahomes and people will be like, the worst move ever by the Browns.
Past his prime.
Yes. You know what I mean? The guy's only won 2 Super Bowls or whatever. He's not that good. So you're going to have to earn some goodwill back with Browns fans because at this point, everything you do is just going to get crapped on. I feel about this hire in terms of I was open to a lot of different people. I'm happy that it feels like Kevin is going to do it the way he wants to do it. He's like, I think this is a big year for Kevin. If we suck again, he'll be gone.
For sure.
Okay, same with AB. Yep. And if my guy is going to get fired, I want him to get fired doing it the way he wants to do it. That way there's no question at the end of the season was he the one who really got to make the decisions? Did he get to do this? Like, we're all it's speculation, but we kind of question that. Like, did he have a say? Was he allowed to bench Deshaun? Did he want to hire this and all? We have those questions. It's hard to hold him accountable. The fact that he still has a job makes you think maybe he didn't.
He wasn't accountable.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wasn't accountable for that. But if my guy's going to go down, I want him to go down on his terms. Like, at the end of the season, I want to say, Kevin made this decision. He made this decision. He made this decision. And that's why he's still here, or that's why he's gone. So this leaves no doubt to that. So let him pick the guy he wants, first of all. But I was open to all these different suggestions. I think the two biggest names were him and Kubiak out of the Saints. I kind of like the Tommy Rees thing because as much as I want to go back to Kevin's offense, I don't want to go back to just what Kevin's offense was before we hired Dorsey. Because even though we didn't want to hire Dorsey, we all wanted a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, we all said last year we were on board with the idea of modernizing the offense, bringing in the new wrinkles, kind of updating things to the current NFL, level, what other teams are doing, that stuff. But using Kevin's offense as the baseline standard with maybe now some of these new wrinkles that Tommy Rees can introduce, because whatever Dorsey came in here and did was shit. I mean, it was terrible. So he's gone, and I like this. I think this could be a good pairing. I'm kind of with Blake. Like, as far as when it was announced, I was just like, okay, But I think like Browns fans are like not really in touch with what's going on as far as with the team. Like, I hear a lot of like, why aren't we going after the kid from the Bucks, the OC? I'm like, he's going to stay there. They actually have a nice foundation.
And I don't think people realize you can't hire an offensive coordinator to
it's a lateral
offensive
move.
Coordinator.
Yeah, correct. It's a trade, correct?
You would have to trade for him.
Correct.
And they're not going to agree to that, first of all.
No. And Ben Johnson's not coming. These guys are all going after head coaching positions.
Yes.
Right? We don't have one of those available. So we got to chill out, Browns fans. As far as with Tommy, everything you hear, a lot of people are going after him. Kind of a coveted guy.
Some people were saying, like,
Vrabel wanted him.
If Bill didn't go to North Carolina,
he was the head coach.
He was going to be their head coach.
Correct. Yeah. I heard
Nick
that.
Saban has some quotes about Tommy Rees talking about how, he loved having him on his staff. He thought he was like a very up and coming, bright offensive mind. He understands football. And I can't remember the quote exactly, but it was something like he's a very mature, football minded person. Like, he understands the game. And I think that's going to be nice to have. I think, like, we kind of thought when they hired Dorsey, they were going to blend Kevin and Dorsey, and it became very obvious that was not the case. It did not happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I was anti-Kubiak. I think he would have been a good hire too, especially with his experience. But that just two people in the same room that do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I didn't want to go back to just Kevin's offense. I want to get back to the core concepts of Kevin's offense, but I want some newness to it, some wrinkles. And I think Tommy Rees, being a younger offensive mind who's coached college offenses, we can keep the foundation of Kevin's offense and just incorporate some of that stuff and it not be like a complete overhaul. And then we can build an offense to the personnel we have on the team right now instead of just trying to mold it to fit one guy. I know some people were down on Rees at Alabama. They said, he wasn't good there, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure they beat Georgia in the SEC championship. They end up losing to Michigan in the playoff, which, Michigan went on to win the title. They were cheating. And then Milroe, I'm pretty sure, had his best passing season statistically.
Like 24-6
for that year. And they scored, I think, like 6 or 7 points less a game that year than they did the previous year. But if you go back and you look at Alabama's offensive roster, the year Tommy Rees was offensive coordinator, outside of Milroe, who I don't think is that good, tell me an offensive player. I was looking at it. It is maybe their worst offensive team in the last decade. I didn't know any of their running backs.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look because I don't know.
I didn't know anybody. I didn't know. And so I'm going back I'm like, okay, they scored 7 less a game. They still went to the playoff, won the SEC championship, ended Georgia's like 20-some game win streak. He got the best passing season out of Jalen Milroe, who I think is a below-average college passer. And he did it with their worst offensive team at least personnel wise, at least from what I could tell, I'm not an SEC guy, Alabama fan. Gage Tucker could help me out here, but like they weren't, Jalen Hurts or Mac Wilson with Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. Mac Jones. And, it wasn't an offense with 10 future NFL players on it.
That's fair.
So I'm excited to see what they come up with. And a big thing for me is not only we aren't the only people high on him.
Right.
Like you said, we're promoting him to keep him in the building because if we didn't, he was probably going to get poached.
Yeah.
If you went and looked at other teams that had like offensive coordinator openings and things like that, his name was out there
for sure,
like listed under other teams that, hey, this could be the potential who they're going to interview. Maybe they hire. And Tommy Rees was listed on other, websites and people that talk about that kind of stuff. So
I do think too, there's a really, really good chance that we take a young quarterback at 2.
It makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Because,
and then you have this young guy, a young up and coming, we're not sure what he is.
That was
yet,
another
right?
one of, I think another one of Saban's quotes was how something about the way he's able to work with the younger quarterbacks and help develop them in the system. And so I think that is a big deal. And I think it does lend to us. We're going to take somebody at some point in the draft.
For sure.
If it's at 2 or 12 or 8 or wherever, right, or in the second round, we're taking somebody. And like you said, or might even take 2.
Yeah. Speaking of the draft, I think we have a voicemail for the draft.
We do. This is from our girl, Stacy.
What's up, Dogs Podcast? This is Stacy. Just calling in with a quick question about the draft. So obviously the draft is coming up. We have that number 2 pick, which is great. I just wanted to know, this is actually a question specifically for Josh and John. I want to know your guys' opinion on what you would like to do with that second spot. I know we've heard from Blake and Kenny about what they want to do, but I feel like we haven't really heard from Josh and John. So what do you guys think about that second spot? Do you want to trade? Are we keeping it? And who do you guys have your eyes on? All right, guys, have a good one.
Shut it off. Hold on.
I wanted to say this. First of all, I was about to be real. I was like, what did I do to Stacy? But it's because she already listened to my episode.
There you go. Yeah. I was waiting for her to be like, and Brett, I knew what I was going to be like, yep.
Maybe she really wants John to come do a special guest spot. He
could come and sleep next to me anytime we want.
Well, I was going to say, like, you're going to get John's opinion on this episode, the same as you would if he was actually here.
Yes, very fair.
He's got an opinion.
John.
He's been texting me his opinion. He's got one. But why don't we hear from Justin this and Sean's not here.
Hi, I'm Justin Charles. I actually am on this show. I have so many options in my head, right? But right now, the one thing for me is I think that I want us to trade out of 2. I really do. I think I want us to trade out of 2, get some picks. And it's the only reason I say this is I'm just not sure about the quarterback position. And I know we badly need to address the quarterback position, but I've watched Abdul Carter maybe 3 times this year. And every time I'm like, man, holy crap, this dude is good. Holy crap, this guy is everywhere. This is, I guess, what the reasoning would be is I would go and get him and you go, hey, Miles, we're real serious about you being here. And I know that we've talked and we say, hey, just because we have Miles, it doesn't accumulate always the wins. But we really have never given him a real, we've had all, Batman and Robin. We've never given him another guy that can win a one-on-one, it seems like. So that's where I'm at right now. I just want to say, hey, send the message to Miles. You're serious. You want it. That would improve the defense. But then, you have gaping holes on the offense. So it's tough.
Stacy's actually in our Facebook dog pack, and she posted in there. She wants the same thing. She said today she wants to trade back out of there and get some picks. And I posted the image of what we got with the Eagles when we traded back out of 2 back when they took Carson Wentz. And we moved back to 8, I believe. And then we traded that to the Titans so they could take Jack Conklin, and we traded back to 16. So we went from 2 to 16 and took Corey Coleman. I said, just as long as we don't do this shit again.
God.
Okay? I have so much trauma from Browns trading back in drafts that anytime someone says trade back, my first reaction is like, I don't want to do that. But then again, we also don't always land the picks that we're sitting on. So whatever. I think that if they go, I don't have a strong opinion either way right at this point. I mean, it's January. Things are going to change. If they go quarterback and it has to be Sanders or Ward, I think I lean Sanders. I think that he's the more pro-ready guy. I think that he's I think Ward might have the higher ceiling, but a much lower floor than Sanders. But I don't know. I am so torn right now, too. I think about it all the time. Like, what do I really want them to do? And I honestly don't know right now. This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. Dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
If you're not, I'm not trading out unless they have to just like,
it's got to be
completely-
sweet.
Yeah,
Like it's got to be like,
I need a sweet too, bro.
I can't believe they
doing
did
this.
that.
Almost like what the Panthers gave up.
Oh,
to
if we
get
get
Bryce-
something like that,
I mean, they
bro.
gave up DJ Moore and 2 first-round picks and plus,
and a
and it's
second.
like, okay,
There's a
I will take
high
that.
second.
Yes,
Yes.
something like that. I would. Okay, then it's hard to say no to that. But to me, if you want to tell Miles you're serious, you don't draft an edge rusher. That we just had historically one of the worst offenses of all time.
Sure.
You want to tell Miles you're serious, you got to go figure out a way to put points on the board.
Well, and Miles apparently has already met because his quote was, what did he say? We're closer than a lot of people think. So he's already met, and that's what he came out of the meeting saying. So that's good. That's encouraging.
Quarterback away.
He obviously has been convinced.
And I'll reiterate this, what I said on the episode I did with Kenny is Abdul Carter, he's very good, and he had an amazing game against Notre Dame, and they lost because they don't have a quarterback. A lot of Browns fans were high on Drew Aller before that game. I thought Drew Aller is the definition of mid for 2 years now.
Yeah.
He played as well as you could possibly play as a defensive player in that game, and they're at home this week.
Yeah, Drew Aller's the kid that, like, you look at his stats over the last 2 years, I think, and you go, oh, actually,
But if you just
those aren't
watch
too
him-
bad. But when you watch him, it's like, oh, he's not very good.
No. And so it just doesn't move the needle enough for me. And I know like Gage Tucker's been pounding the drum on in the Discord. We are a competent quarterback away from being a competitive football team again. I won't say that we're a competent quarterback away from being Super Bowl contenders or anything crazy, but we saw just in little stretches when Jameis went and turned the ball over, we could play.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We saw that we could play. We beat the Ravens, dominated them, honestly. And we beat the Steelers. So we just need competent quarterback play, and all of a sudden you're at least a playoff contender again. Okay. And then if you make the playoffs, and who knows what happens. So I just think I'm on the train of I'm adding as many new quarterbacks to this roster as I can in the offseason.
That's fair.
Because until you get the quarterback, none of it matters. We have had arguably the best by position player in the NFL on our team for now since 2017, and we've lost more games than we've won.
We had the best left tackle in the NFL for like 13 years or however long it was.
First, I'm pretty sure unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer at left tackle for his entire career.
Yep.
And we never won games.
That's what Miles will be too. First ballot probably.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So it is this isn't 2002 or 1998, and you say, well, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. This isn't that NFL. Go look at just the playoffs this year. All but 2 of the quarterbacks were first-round pick quarterbacks. The only 2 that weren't were Jalen Hurts and Russell Wilson. Every other quarterback that was in the playoffs this year was a first-round draft pick. If you go look at all the teams that won in the first round, they're the teams that have the better quarterback. And it is the most important position. And I'm not letting us be afraid of not getting it right again stop us from trying. You have to do it. You pick a quarterback until you get it. And if 50 years from now we're still picking one in the top 2, that really sucks. But you have to go get it.
Who do you like between the two? Or is there not a guy there yet?
I think Shador is more pro ready also. And depending on how much we're going back to Kevin's principles, I think Cam Ward probably has the higher ceiling, and he's more of an explosive athlete. He can do more with his legs. But is that what we need for the offense we're going to run? I don't know. And again, I don't want to try to build the offense around the guy without, having the identity of the rest of our team.
One thing I was listening to today about Shador specifically was people being very impressed with his pocket presence and pocket awareness and his, what do I want to say? Like, he's not afraid to step up in the pocket. He's not afraid of pressure. It does lead to a lot of sacks. That's one thing I am worried about him. He took more sacks than anybody else in college football. We have a sack problem in Cleveland, but whatever. He's very good in the pocket, and he's very good at creating space within the pocket. He's always got his eyes downfield. He's always looking for the next play and all that kind of stuff. And he's very, very, it seems like has a high football IQ. And they were talking about he's already undergone serious pressure. Being Deion Sanders' son, your dad's the head coach at Colorado, the microscope he's been under, and he's been under all this pressure for the last 2 seasons there, and he has succeeded, and he's played at a high level. And it goes to what you were saying. He played at a high level without a lot of great skill players. Him and Travis Hunter, not a great line. Who are the other receivers? Who's the running back? Game. It's not like a Joe Burrow playing with all these other pieces. It's not like a Will Howard playing with all these other pieces. And he was making it happen there in Colorado.
Yeah, and I'm not saying draft Shador at 2 if he's there and just, again, hand him the keys. I'm still bringing in a bridge. So if we stay at 2 and we take Shador, I'm still taking another quarterback probably in the 4th or later. He's probably going to end up going way higher, but like a lot of people like Jackson Dart. At least if it stays like in the PFF mock world, you can get him in the 4th or the 5th.
I think he'll be a first rounder by the time all the stuff's over.
But Will Howard, I think, is a guy who could run a Stefanski offense. He's 6'5", he's huge.
Yeah.
Mobile, can run. I'm almost certain you'll be able to get Will Howard in the 4th.
I would like to see what Will Howard could be in the NFL if he doesn't have to start year 1.
Yeah. So I'm saying if I'm picking at 2 and I'm picking Shador, then I'm going to pick another one. I'm going to go Will Howard in the 4th or the 5th, depending on where I can get him. I'm still signing Kirk Cousins, and I'm adding as many QBs to this roster as I can, and eventually one of them is going to be the right one.
We would
hope so.
We all agree that the quarterback room has to be like reset
completely. 100%.
The only one on our team that I would bring back would be Bailey Zappi, and it would be to be the practice squad quarterback. I think he could be a practice squad quarterback, emergency QB. I don't want him nowhere near having to start games for us.
God, please no.
But I think he is good. He can be our practice squad quarterback. That DTR's got to go. Jameis is gone. Deshaun is gone. There's got to be 3 new quarterbacks on this team. And I would bring in Kirk Cousins. I would draft one at 2, and I would draft another one in the middle rounds, like the Redskins at the time did when they took RG3 at 2 and then took Kirk Cousins later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Shout out to Matt Fontana watching the show.
Yeah, he tweeted that today, and I was like, man, I've been saying that on the show for a
couple weeks now, yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would do. And then I'm adding offense to this team by the droves. Any offense I can add, because I think the defense is good enough right now that if you had competent QB play, and I think by these answers, nobody was bought in this year.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
and the defense still played pretty well for the most part.
Yes,
even being like, man, we have no hope.
You saw a huge drop. The biggest difference in the defense this year between last year was we didn't force the turnovers.
Right, exactly.
And I read an article, you're not going to force the most turnovers in the league every year for the most part. Like, a lot of teams will go from being top of the league, and then the next year they have a fall off, and then they're right back up again. Like, that's the kind of thing, you got to get the ball to bounce your way.
offense
kinds
has
of
to get a
stuff.
first down every once in a
I
while.
was going to say, when your offense is turning it over 2+ times a game, what can you do?
Right.
You know,
They're on the field the whole game.
differential is never going to be in your favor.
Right.
So, did you guys want to just mention Jalen Milroe with the Tommy Rees connection as an option for the Browns?
So I say draft 2 quarterbacks. He's not one of them I'm drafting.
Fair.
I've never thought he was that good in college. He's at Alabama, playing with 5-star recruits all over the field, playing against Sisters of the Poor in week 11. And I just don't think he's that good. And we have Gage Tucker in our in the dog pack is a diehard Alabama fan, and he was like, "Trust me, you want no part of Jalen Milroe." Like, even Alabama fans are happy he's about to be gone. I think there's way better options, even in the middle rounds, to go after. If we end up being stupid and taking Jalen Milroe in like even the second, that to me is, somebody earlier said he's Anthony Richardson 2.0. I said the exact same thing, I think, in the Discord the other day. He's Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson's worse because he was never good in college, and at least Jalen Milroe's like been okay in college.
And he's played.
But yes, to me, that just reminds me of an Anthony Richardson. He's 100% a project. Fits what Kevin wants to do on offense, 0. So, yeah, I want no part of that.
That's fair.
All right, so take him off the Dogs big board.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I cannot wait for draft night.
Yeah, we're going to be able to do it.
On Thursday
on
this
a
time.
first round night.
Yes.
Holy crap.
And I mean, unless we trade back super far, I mean, within the first hour, we're going to have something to talk about.
It'll be a quick show that night. We'll be live at 7:20.
Yeah.
We'll be off the air by 7:45.
It won't be like wait until 11 o'clock for Greg Newsome.
Grand opening, grand closing.
But no, yeah, I'm excited to see what we do in the offseason. I think a huge thing of the draft will be what we do in free agency. If we address the offensive line in free agency, then I think the importance of that in the draft will go down. I think quarterback will stay important no matter what we do. If we go get a receiver, that everything free agency, I think, will dictate what we do in the draft. Now, they're probably already coming up with that plan.
Right.
But we don't know what the plan is yet.
Yeah. Unrendered in the chat. We kind of mentioned him earlier. How do y'all feel about Jackson Dart? I don't know about you guys for sure, but like I'm rising on him. Just all the stuff that I've been reading about him and watching and things like that. I really think that if I had to predict today, I think that he goes and has a great Senior Bowl. I think that he gets people talking. Teams are going to be talking about him. And then I think he probably does pretty well at the combine, and he's going to be in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in the top 10.
Top 10?
Yeah. Raiders,
Top
one of those
10.
teams that, how many teams need a quarterback? And
A lot.
we're talking about it. Like
The top 10.
and we're talking about guys that, allegedly some teams do not even have first round grades on Sanders or Ward. Yeah. And we're talking about him at 2. So
he's 6'2", 225, right?
Yeah.
So he's a decent sized dude.
I mean, he's been the full-time starter at Ole Miss for 3 years, ever since he got there. 3 full seasons there. He's broke like all of Eli Manning's records. I mean, if you listen to Ole Miss fans, they love that kid. Like he's their dude. So,
and he's another guy who has played a lot of college football.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Go Knicks.
And every year he was better.
In a good conference.
Yes.
Against, good competition. It's not like he was, I know Josh Allen came from Wyoming or whatever, but not everybody can do that.
A guy and he's played for a coach who coached in the NFL.
Yeah.
It was a brief stint, if I remember. Lane Kiffin was in the NFL, right? Or did I imagine that?
I feel like that's right.
I thought, wasn't he at the Raiders for like a weekend?
Yeah, I think so.
A weekend?
That sounds right. Yeah,
so
sounds right.
He's got to get, if he goes that up into the first top 10, that'd be a meteoric rise.
Well, hey,
wouldn't shock me at
last
all.
year everybody had Penix and Bo Nix as mid-second round picks, and they both went top 12, 8 and 12, I think.
I felt 2 years ago, Anthony Richardson, really.
Yeah, that's another great one. He
went
and
on
had
the radar, and then all of a sudden it was like this.
He had a great combine, and
Yeah.
he goes to 3 or 4. Yeah,
4.
It's going to happen. You're going to see a couple other quarterbacks, probably at least one other quarterback go in the first round that you didn't really expect, at least in January.
Another before we wrap up, sneaky needs in the draft for me: tight end.
Oh yeah,
linebacker, because who knows what's going on with JOK.
Yep,
and running back.
Yeah.
That's not a sneaky need. We freaking need a running back.
And let me throw this out to you real quick. I threw it to Kenny in the episode, and you probably saw it because you.
I did. I watched. Yeah.
But I would draft Travion Henderson, and then what would you think if we signed Najee Harris?
I don't hate Najee Harris.
Najee to me is not a great running back by any stretch, but I feel like he's not hurt. Like he plays a lot.
He's never missed a game
He plays hurt.
Unless I'm wrong, but yeah.
Yeah. And he's a bruiser. He could be Travion Henderson's David Montgomery. Is he as good as David Montgomery? I don't know, but he could complement him in that way.
Dude, you floated that out there on that episode with Kenny about bring in Henderson to be your Jahmyr Gibbs and then get Najee Harris to be your David Montgomery. And I was like, I see it. I actually see it.
Speak
I
it
think
into
that's
existence, brother.
I like it a
He's
lot.
played AFC North football. He's physical. He would give you an identity in the run game. And I think Travion Henderson could be special. I just don't want him to get 300 carries because I don't know with his injury history. But I think Travion Henderson is a touchdown waiting to happen every time he touches the ball.
And let's not pretend like Pittsburgh has had the best run blocking offensive line all these last 3 years that Najee Harris has been there or whatever. You know, and I think if we get back to Kevin Stefanski, under center play action, power run, get these linemen firing off and attacking the defensive. We got a good run blocking line. We just need to put them in position to do it. I think Najee could have success here too, for sure.
Yeah, that's Ashton says the Lions are going to have to start paying people. Maybe we could actually just get David Montgomery.
They just signed him.
Oh, they did?
They just locked him down.
Oh, yeah, he did get an extension, didn't he? Yeah, this year.
A big contract,
Yeah, so we're not getting him.
But I think like Najee Harris, would the Steelers, are the Steelers going to let him go? They might.
They didn't pick up his 5th-year option.
So would he come to the Browns? Maybe it's kind of like a FU to the...
I don't know, bro.
To the Steelers.
I mean, David Montgomery, man, he stayed in division.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of similar.
Saquon went to signed with the Eagles. Yeah. So would it be like a little bit of an FU to the Steelers? I don't know. I think if you can get Travion and you could pair him with a guy like Najee, I think that could be a pretty dynamic backfield.
Absolutely. As long and just commit to it. Like the Lions did, like we used to. Commit to the freaking run. I mean, this year was a joke.
With that front line, hell no. I think the Browns' offensive line is significantly better than they were made to look out this year.
And you could tell it by just their reactions in the media.
They
know it.
Didn't like the position they were
it.
put in this year. So
I look the same thing.
I look for the Browns' offensive line to have a big bounce back season.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but all right, we'll wrap this up. We appreciate you guys being here. This is like the most I've wanted to talk about the Browns since week 4 of the season.
I remember leaving week 1 up there and it was like, I don't want to talk about this.
Thank God we don't have to talk about games anymore. Fucking games.
That's what he said coming in here. He was like, man, this is the most exciting. I said, yeah, because now it's all hope and
so excited.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
This has been like the best week of my life. Yeah, I've been back in on the Browns again. Here we go.
But, well, we appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with us through another off season. Glad we could be back in the studio for you guys for at least a couple more weeks. Stick with us. Send us your mock drafts. Let us know who you guys want the Browns to pick, who we should sign free agency, who we should target, all that good stuff. What do you want the Browns to do as we move forward into the offseason? Again, if you want to leave voicemails, it's the dogspodcast.com. Tap leave voicemail in the drop-down menu. Follow us on the socials at the Dogs Podcast, especially if you're like a TikTok person, you don't follow us anywhere else. Go follow us somewhere else before you lose us, before the government takes us away from you. And join thedogs.com if you want to become a Dog Pack member. Again, we appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you guys sometime next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support, I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter. And most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients. Plus, it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order. And that code can be used over and over. So you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live full service.